when I'm approaching an effects sequence, big sequence, whatever that is, if it's a ship exploding, if it's Will Smith in Hancock, putting his foot through a moving car and burying his feet into the road and stopping the vehicle, whatever it is, if it's a crowd enhancement for a football scene in Friday Night Lights, I like to have some kind of image in my mind. I think it's important that as a director, you don't come to VFX guys and say, hey, what do we do? You say, look, I want this. I want this car to hit this and spin 14 times and smash through a building, and I want a wide shot of that car exploding out of the building and taking out a jumbotron of a football stadium, right, or whatever it is. You've got this, and you should be able to see it in your head and have some idea going into it. But then you can sit down with these guys and go, okay, this is kind of what I'm thinking, and they'll put it on a computer and they'll animate it. And then once we have it animated, then we can really start talking about, well, what if the camera spun around the car as it was coming out and then traveled with it? And what if the car went through a flock of birds and they all had to, whatever the imagination can think of, you can previs. Then once you start honing in on a previs and you start bringing your effects designers, if it's ILM, who I work with a lot, you bring guys like Grady Coffer down and they look at the previs and they're like, oh, well, we could also do this, 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 and this. And pretty soon you've designed and got this animated shot. And it's amazing. You can put music to it, you can cut it, you can tweak it. And then the tricky part, you fall in love with it, and then you turn it over to the effects house and they budget it. And that's when things kind of go sideways, because that's when all the, they come back and they say, oh yeah, sure, you can do it. That's $18 million. And you're like, well, maybe we're not going to go through the birds. How about, well, that would save you, and you then kind of ballpark it, get it into a number that fits, because you have to be somewhat financially responsible. Then once you've got it and it's budgeted and you like the way it looks, for me as a director, I can hand it over to a company like ILM, and they'll take it up to San Francisco. And as I say, I always joke and I say, look, I've made a conscious decision to not be all that intelligent and to have a career that doesn't demand for me to be that intelligent. Don't fuck with my decision. Don't come at me with your technical talk and your compression ratios and whatever bullshit technology you're using today. I don't really care. Just deliver this. I like a great story, and I've rarely seen technology trump storytelling. It can be very additive. There can be an extra element to it, but there's very few filmmakers that I think are really using technology in such a unique, transcending manner that I really go, wow, okay, what James Cameron does, I get it. I see that, not my thing. I could never do that, but I tip my hat to that vision and passion and utilization of technology. There's very few filmmakers that can do it. And there's been a lot of 3D films that really just aren't that good. And how many filmmakers are consistently working with new technology in a way that you really go, holy shit, I've never seen that before. I put Michael Bay in that category, someone who really understands technology and is obsessed with it. And what he does in Transformers and the shot making that he does, and the marriage of visual effects and live action is very, very unique. But and James Cameron, those directors love it. It's not like you can just pick any director and give him Transformers and say, oh, do what Michael Bay did, or any director and give him Avatar. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to do a 3D romantic comedy. It's got to be a director that really understands and is obsessed with the technology if it's going to really work. One of the many challenges of our business is there's no barrier of entry, right? Anybody, literally anybody. I mean, if you call a plumber to come fix your house, you assume that the guy's got a license, right? You get on an airplane with your family you take a quick look in the cockpit, you know those pilots that are certified and licensed, and obviously if you're going to go to the doctor, you expect them to be a degree in medical school at minimum, graduate school. Well, anybody can move to Hollywood and proclaim themselves a writer, director, an actor, producer, and there's no test, there's no entry point. So as a result, we get flooded, and you know, with social media and the ability for people to edit, you know, in different ways and make their own films, and obviously the way the equipment is becoming so much more simple and smaller. It's even making it easier for people to sort of become self-proclaimed, you know, filmmakers of whatever capacity. So as a result, you know, the amount of filmmakers keeps going up, but the amount of money and people that are willing to give is not going up. So you get all these people fighting, and the system has a very odd way, I think, of kind of figuring out who's actually a credible steward of the money, who can consistently get it done and create a return on that investment. And so those lines aren't as clear. It's not like, well, I'm going to go to film school, I'm going to get up early, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to drink a lot of water, I'm not going to swear or cuss or, you know, do any drugs or be reckless. I'm going to be a good person, and I'm going to be rewarded for it. It just doesn't go that way out here. The lines are much harder to delineate.